Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Open the meeting and review the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Anything jump out at you? Anyone? Okay, thank you for covering the words. I'm telling you, motion to approve. Motion to approve by Mr. Taylor, second by Mr. Burton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. You on the audit committee,
No, maybe.
anything to report?
Nothing.
No, maybe.
Not right now.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, Mr. Taylor, building.
Well, with any luck, we'll be able to establish a quorum this evening and get down to the matters at hand. Even the generator issues. Even the most pressing.
Anything else?
That's
That's
it.
good. Codes and zoning, David Thomas.
Code and zoning, we've got a meeting on the 9th of this month. Finally have some, something to look at. The fire chief is wanting us to, go over the burn permit. Apparently, we've got a burn permit on file as far as a vote for it back in like 93, I believe you told me. But we can't find what that permit process was. Can't find anything written, he can just find the record of where it was, a motion was made and a vote was cast. So he was looking to get some language put in place of that. So we'll be going over that and, continuing going over Rick Gregory's progress in, cleaning up the codes and zoning. So I guess it would have been our last meeting that we had, we approved the blasting permit that the planning commission had put in place with a $100 fee associated to that for administrative cost. And so that should be coming, or does that need to come, since it's got a fee associated, does that need to come before budget and finance? Before it goes to the full commission, or?
I can't see any purpose for it coming before budget finance. I mean, I know it's a fee, but it's a fee schedule, not a cost to the county. It's just it's just $100 fees going into what account?
They would just go into their, I guess it just go in the general fund. Cause it'll help pay for the software expense that they're gonna have to have.
Who is that?
That's Rosalie's department. I keep saying they, because that should technically be a two-person deal, but, yeah, so there's a little extra cost adding another department to the software that she's using. And so we wanted to offset that. So
Anything else?
that should be it.
Okay. Ms. Russell.
We have our next meeting scheduled for the 10th. I don't know if you wanted to know any of the let's see, things we'll be going over, or if you just want to hear after the meeting's complete. I just jotted down some things that so see whether or not they've got the new ambulance in. If they do, look into getting the one that's not painted paint, see how the supply service is going. There's a 2300 startup. Talk about this emergency shelter that they had brought up, but haven't really said anything about since. Look over hardships, training, building repairs for that. Fire, old brush truck. I think it may still be at Blankenship. And if I'm not mistaken, this last should have completed their gear that they need, so I might be able to check that off my list. See how their meet and greet went. And if they need any instructors and you're gonna handle the burn blast policy, it's just because they were kind of, Mr. Bueller was coming to your meetings and kind of looking into those. So I was just gonna see if they had any updates on that. The rescue vehicle, there's one that's out for repairs. Rescue surplus needs to come before us before it can be sold. See if they're ready to do that. And if they have any training our instructor needs, that's what I'll be looking at this time.
The third week in May is EMS week, and so we'll be doing some special things for them. And we'll talk about that before then. I'll bring that up to your next meeting. Thank you. Mr. Gully.
course, finance at its regular, meeting for the work session on March 18th. All things that went through, I know that, there was some, quite a few grant pieces there. There were some, one major piece was the truck, that was purchased, for the, urban service here. And to use as door-to-door trash, that was a major purchase that had to come forward. But it did go through favorably. Fortunately, Mr. Gregory was able to, get all those in urban service, that are elected on the urban service. I guess that's council, is that what that is? I don't know the term, committee. They all were at our meeting and in agreement with the need for that purchase. So that one went pretty well. Everything else was, as we're starting to see a few cleanups and things of that nature, most were, pretty, regular thing items, nothing major. Of course, we're in April, so there's a piece of time coming our way very soon. We did have I think we had to get the notice to the school for their anticipated revenues, coming from the county, and that's taken care of, so they're ready to get their, budget together. Other than that, it's, time to start hearing and hopefully seeing some budgets coming our way very soon, and what's, I know when I say soon, month of April with where we are. So other than that, no, nothing much. Very, clean meeting, all pieces went through and then went through commission.
Very good. Law enforcement.
No meeting, but since sheriff's done with his surgery and I'm back from my surgeries, we're gonna get together, do some talking, have a meeting real soon.
Sounds good. Mark Presley, of course, is not here, and so Public Works.
We haven't had a meeting since our last meeting. We got one scheduled for this Thursday, April 6th. I'm just hoping it stays dry. Maybe they get started working on the new playground. Heard any more with this week?
No, just the timetable it gave us was around July 4th, somewhere there.
I was at the ball field yesterday, went up around, everything looks good. His kids out playing. I went up to the bathroom, so it was real clean. The security guy there is overlooking things. I think everything's running smooth down there.
It's a big welcome change.
So it possibly might not be completed before July 4th.
We're hoping that's around that area, when it's gonna be completed now. Instead of over with, first thought maybe October, November. Now they say probably July for weather permits.
Okay, I'm just thinking about like music in the park.
Yeah, we were hoping for May, but it looks like it's gonna be right in July 4th.
They had that meeting, and they give them a timeline, and it's something about July.
Like July 7th
Something like that.
and 13th.
Yeah,
finishing there.
13th was finishing. And we do want to try to not pay them till everything's complete.
We've been burnt once.
And the pool, we did set the opening day for it, and I think it was May 17th for that run.
I believe that's great. Saturday, the first Saturday.
It's better this year.
Yeah, it looks like he's seen everything's better on the lifeguard situation this year. I think he's.
Looks a little more relaxed.
Mhm. Thank you, Bill. Now under other discussion, let me give a quick update on the mayor's report. It appears from all appearances that, we're gonna get the Ward School grant, $2 million grant. We will know, we're having a meeting in the next 2 weeks with all the details. The only information I got today was that there's a hard and fast completion date, which is December 31st, 2026. So we got 2 years. Actually, we got all of this year and then 2 more years to do it. That trying to get our arms wrapped around that and get it coordinated and how to do it is going to be somewhat of a challenge, but it's a good challenge.
In the original discussion on that one, how is that gonna be handled? Is the Ward School, I had a member of the public come to me and ask me this the other day. Who has ownership of the Ward School during that time, and where's it at?
What I foresee, and they signed a memorandum of understanding that if the grant was approved, they would turn it over to the county. Now, once that project is done, I foresee setting up a 501(c)(3) and transferring it back out of the county as far as maintenance is concerned, where it won't be the responsibility of the county to oversee it and manage it. I think in some ways the county is not doing that to manage. And the way it worked at the Shalom Center in Gallatin is they turned it over to a 501c3. And it's worked very well. That's what I said. Looks like pretty soon we'll be able to start making adjustments to streetscape. We chose an engineering firm for the multimodal sidewalk project this week, so that's gonna be moving ahead. And then,
Have you gotten the training on that yet?
no, that's still in the works. Somebody's gotta be trained and the class filled up, but it's just another one of those processes you have to jump through all those hoops to get it done.
Where's the completion date at for it? Deadline?
2 to 3 years.
He doesn't have one?
No.
Because it was a grant as well, right?
2 to 3 years.
My understanding is we can't even officially get the grant until someone in administration has that training.
Well, I think as long as they know we're going to get the training, it is moving ahead now.
Okay.
We're, some decisions were made this week on moving ahead, so it's still gonna happen. I can't think of anything else for the mayor's office currently.
So in the 501c for the ward schools, you already have kind of that group set up or?
No,
Okay.
we'll have plenty of time to do that while the project's going forward to get to how to structure that. But that won't be that difficult. I will say that we had a meeting, some concerned citizens had a meeting, 2 Saturdays ago about, having an arts council. And, we've contacted an attorney on that to get that together, and that'll be a good thing for downtown, bring some more business downtown. Yes, sir.
One more question on the Ward Center. So when it transfers back into county hands, are we assured that there's no liabilities we're gonna be facing, such as we run in there and there's an asbestos problem, we get into this and there's a,
You know, they're going to do a phase 1 and I'd like to see that done before that's done, and that's the reason we had GNRC be the in-between. And as a matter of fact, they advised that the GNRC be the grant application. So if there was any liability, it wouldn't fall on the county or the ward school. So that's where we're working on that.
so GNRC would take the liability?
Well, if there were any problems in the phase 1 or phase 2. In other words, if we applied for it, if there were a problem in phase 1, well, it would come back on us. But that's why they say it has to have a middleman in doing that.
So it just falls on no one in the building, just sits there. Is that?
Correct. So that's the next thing they'll do is do a phase 1.
Prior to,
So we can move on to other business, other discussion, and would be jail's next step. What's the will of this body? Kind of talk about where we are and where we're headed.
I thought you had a good plan with, letting the sheriff sort of take the run. I think you mentioned that in the, meeting.
I did, and I'm not sure he's inclined to do so. I think, what he's wanting to do right now is have, the Tennessee Corrections Institute come back, and kind of do a thing for the entire commission. He was talking about a 2 to 4 hour session. Maybe we could compact down to 2 hours, but Will Wall contacted us this week to set a date, and that probably won't happen sometime in May because budget's this month.
You made your budget now.
And I think, I'm not sure how much we can accomplish with that, but if that's what the sheriff wants to do, that's what we'll do.
What was he going, I mean, just tell you about what size jail you need, or I mean, what was he going?
Well, that's what come. That's what, we've already done that, but I think he wants them to reiterate the size of the jail we need, or I'm not real sure.
And when they came, it was last administration.
I'm sorry.
When they came, it was last
100%.
administration. And it was, we didn't have the new commissioners.
And that's the point he made,
Yeah.
that half the commissioners have never been through this process and it'd be an educational process for them,
Mhm.
which I think is fine.
Yeah.
For sure. I do think we need to be thinking in terms of other properties that are available, because at some point in time. And one thing that Jim Langford from Spirit reiterated to me was that what they've accomplished so far for us is not wasted time, because they have a footprint, a basic footprint on what the jail would look like. And there are 2 or 3 places that could sit down and fit, okay? But at some point in time, we need to have Spirit come in and talk about that.
Is it needed property the county owns now that we can put it on?
Well, let's think about that for a minute.
Like
I
how
mean, from the beginning, I thought it'd be best between the jail and the new Justice Center now. They keep saying it's a gas line or something over there. I don't.
Well, let me tell you something about that. I
runs the other way.
I contacted Piedmont about that, okay? And Piedmont does not have, what is it called, an access through there? But they got permission from the county to do that. And so if that gas line had to be moved, Piedmont would do it at their expense. That's the last information I got from them. Okay,
So they don't have a right of way through there.
they don't have a right of way. The county just said, you can't, you can go ahead and do it.
That looks like that's the.
So I talked to Ronnie White, and he was very nice to go ahead and pursue that, and that's what he came back with. And he told Mike Plotzik this week that that's what he found out. If the gas line had to be moved, it would be at Piedmont's expense. That's a possibility. Across the street, still a possibility. The architect showed how it would fit on that property, and then there's some other options. There's some other property in town that might be available.
That the county owns or additional property that's available?
Different properties available. Well, you can talk about the park for a moment.
So. How do I put this? I've spent a lot of time, a whole lot of time, and a lot of my energy focused on how to make this work. And this is what what is the most valuable metric that I've come up with for this. The median household income of this county is $32,212. Now, I didn't find it on Facebook, so it might not be accurate. The family household and median income is $37,401. There's 2,780 households in this county. To build this jail anywhere outside of where the infrastructure is will drive the cost of this up about 30%. And anybody that's got a calculator can grab it and start figuring it out. What would it take to run a sewer main? And with the elevation change, the amount of pumping stations that have to go in line, natural gas main, the water main extensions, and electricity. And when you get out there, you got a site prep. Every location. I saw a slide that Spirit Architects had that had all the potential locations on there that the previous administration had looked at, but didn't want to disclose because they were afraid that they were going to drive prices of this real estate up dramatically. Okay, so they kept that all hush hush. So that was part of the backlash. The backlash in the January meeting is, "Where's no other option? You ain't looked at nothing else." There was 5 other locations looked at. Just so you know, every one of those would require a significant amount of site prep. I mean, we're talking 30% of the overall budget, whether the infrastructure or making the land level. That's just fact of the matter. Talked with Spirit Architects and they confirmed those numbers, as that's a real good assessment. With the situation with the park, we might have to take into consideration one thing. I mean, you know, it was that whole situation with that Holder property got blown out of proportion. Yes, there was words taken out of context. Yes, there was liberties taken, false information passed off as fact on the internet, which if it's on Facebook, it's got to be true. We know that that's how a lot of people see it. And but anyway, false information was passed off and they withdrew. If I were them, I would have done the same thing. Which leaves us with a situation. We have got a lot of money invested in a park that we no longer have parking for. right now, we're on a good grace to be able to use the parking that we have. We still can't lock that park up at night. We still cannot secure it. That's a problem. It really is. We face that all the time. If anybody disagrees with me, come sit in one of our Parks and Rec meetings and find out what happens over there sometimes. It's an issue. That's why we got cameras up over there, but it's still an issue. We can't close the parking because we don't have, it's not ours. It's not. So what do? The holders have expressed interest that they may sell that property, and they will not sell us the parking lot because the next tenant of that building may be a manufacturing facility or whatever, and they want that for parking. That has to go with it. And at what time, it's not, as soon as it changes hands, we're not gonna have access to it. And if they so decide that they don't want us to have access to it, again, it's our problem. So we're gonna have ball games, we're gonna have tournaments and stuff going on over there. We're gonna have people parking all over town, kids running down the street to get to the ball field. Do we want that? That doesn't sound like a smart idea to me at all. It sounds dangerous. But again, what do I know? I just know I didn't find any of this information on Facebook. I got it from Wikipedia. So I would say it's probably true. No conjecture there. But I will say this. We find ourselves in a situation where we have no parking. What do? We continue to dump money into the park. We're going to have a great year with that pool this year. Unlike every other year, it's been a major ordeal. But that pool was built on backfill. To actually repair that pool, and I happen to know this because I actually put pools in college as a summer job. I put pools in. To fix that pool to 100%, it would cost more than what it would take to build another one. That was built on backfill, that was pushed up. Okay, it's never going to be right. So there's a point in time. Marlene is a public street, and our legal access to that park is turn and go to the T-ball field. That is all that is legally ours there to get into it. So what do? Now, there's a bunch of other options to look at, but I'll say, and this is coming to a point, and Landon, I want you to listen to me on this one. It would cost so much less money to move the park than it would to build a jail somewhere out in the county. And I've looked at this over and over, and it grieves me to throw this out there, but that pool's not, I mean, not the pool, but the park's not sacred. That is not some historical, that's like the third location it's been in. So it's not like it's been moved, I mean, the last one was over there by a Holden's Market back up there was where the pool was and stuff back then. But it would cost way less to move a park because all the park requires is a water main. And state parks all the time run on septic tanks. They can put a septic tank in there and then electric line. We haven't lost anything with the lights or anything because that stuff could be salvaged. That is a terrible scenario to think about, but it is also a scenario to think. If all other situations fail. The reason I mentioned this income portion is the amount of taxes that we would have to raise to meet the payment on a jail, tacking on the 30% to what the build cost would be. It would put us up in the 30s of millions to build a jail, buy the land, run the utilities. About 30 million in that range, somewhere in there. It's a lot. The whole project, close to 30 million. Again, that's a conversation when I asked the Spirit Architects, he kind of nodded his head, yeah, it's not too far off. If you ought to see what it takes to run a sewer extension, a sewer main that's got a lot of elevation change. There's a reason they don't have city sewers running out in the county. You know why? Because all the elevation change requires numerous pumping stations. That is expensive. It's expensive to build. It's even more expensive to maintain. But that's not the only option. But the reason that the park, if as a last ditch effort would make more sense is because there's senior citizens in this county. Some go to our church land. These people are on fixed income. These numbers from Wikipedia dictate that there's people on fixed incomes that sometimes in the winter, they have to pick what medication they don't get filled in order to stay warm. There's times, there's people that don't have to get, there's elderly people in this county that don't have enough money. Something they have to basically go without some major necessity to be able to pay their bills. And what are we gonna do? What are they gonna do when we throw a wheel tax at them, a hefty wheel tax at them, a property tax raise of the magnitude that we're looking at, and a sales tax increase? These people, we're gonna price some of our elderly out. We are. I mean, this is realistic. It's not all of them. I mean, $37,000 is, I mean, there's people that make a lot more. There's a lot of people make a lot less. That's how we end up with a median number of that. That grieves me. I don't give two shits, except for one thing. I have a soft spot in my heart for the elderly. And I think that at that twilight year of their life, they don't need to be facing hardships. And I have a hard time putting that level or magnitude of hardship on those people. And so how do we find a solution? Well, that land between the jail and the Justice Center, I tell you what, if moving that gas lines, if that's an option, that makes tons of sense. You know why? Because we own that. If something happens and we find out that there's some variable that we don't know about, that somebody pulls out of a file somewhere, that we can't do that, the land across the street, but that's got to be purchased. That adds to the project. It does. I mean, it's another expenditure. The whole bit with that Holder property was the fact that the infrastructure was there. The jail could have been built for under 20 there. That made sense. I don't want us, and I don't think any of you guys want to do this. There's one thing we don't want to do. We don't want to go to the well and tap that well completely dry over a jail, which leaves us with no room for education. Where do we go to get that? Where do we go when that need arises? And it's coming. We will have nowhere to go if we just completely ran that well dry. It's only so wide and so deep. And it's going to get thin. We have another property tax raise. Again, what's that doing to those elderly out there that's on fixed income? We have a lot of those people in our community. They're not broke, they're not destitute, but they don't have a lot of extra money. And it will put a hardship on them. I mean, that's just a fact. And I can't, in good heart, in my heart, my conscience, I can't do that to nobody. So we have to go back to, what do we own? What do we have that has the infrastructure in place that can save that percentage, that when we have time, when there is a need for education, there's room. We haven't completely tapped it 100% just for a jail. That less than 1% of the entire population of this county is going to get any benefit out of it. It's real hard to go to somebody and ask them to bleed all this money, and you're not going to get anything out of it, but there's just going to be a building. Maybe I'm out of line.
What are you proposing?
I'm proposing that we needed to have this discussion so that we can figure out, we need to find out a place that we have to start moving forward instead of just keeping our head in the sand about this. The reason I mentioned the park is a possibility over by there, we need to just look and identify all these possibilities.
I think I'm misunderstanding. You're saying the park that we currently have, baseball fields, as a possibility for the jail?
It would be only down there on the other end towards the amphitheater is not in the floodplain.
Okay.
But I'm telling you that if
Now
it came down to it, if
You're
it came
getting
down,
out of the floodplain on the upper end of the.
yes.
I was like, I'm misunderstanding because there's a floodplain that sits right there.
But once you get up there towards the amphitheater and over where the pool and stuff is, that's not an floodplain. It's only down there in that swamp over there. That's where it's at.
End of Marvin Street's what we're talking about.
Yes. Up in there, it's not. And again, if it did set there, you're not pushing in on a neighborhood, you're not pushing in on a residential area, you're not pushing in on anything right there. Who's going to complain? Who's going to take up a picket and complain on that? The cow?
A little bit on the fact that we just spent $2 million on.
I hate that. I know, but
And
but
$600 on lighting.
Yeah, we can't.
I know that we did spend that.
We can buy land for that amount of money that we're talking about.
We can buy land. But
The
then
money we're talking about, costs right there.
I understand that, but then as long as they can buy that land, then you can get the utilities to it. Without having to,
It's still. We're already talking over 2.6 million right there, just in money we've put in.
it's the worst case scenario. That's why we look across the street, we look here and there. I say, as a worst case scenario, before you go and spend $15 million running something way out off of Highway 10 or whatever. Before you go doing that, that would make more sense than anything, because it would cost way less to move a park than it would to do that. And I confirmed that. I talked to the architect and he just said, yeah, it would cost you way less. But it's not the desired effect. But we still have a problem. We put all this money in this park and we've lost our parking. Those folks aren't happy, and I don't blame them. They're not happy. I keep hearing all the time, they think about fencing it off.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned we lost our parking. It comes to my understanding that there's a chance that the radio station is fixing to pull down the tower. Is that correct? Anybody heard that?
No,
No, they're no longer utilizing the tower.
the tower has the AM transponder on, or transmitter on it.
It does.
The
have-
FM translator is on 2 different cell towers.
Well, they put it on the 2 towers that the
There's one out there, and yeah, but that's,
sheriff's department put up for. Okay.
but the AM is still on that. I've already asked you.
Gotcha.
But-
I think this next committee will have to investigate land, it's one thing.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I guess that's what I'm bringing forward. We need to have options. I'm just saying, all other options, the park is a terrible, I don't like that, but we've lost that parking. And I mean, we're putting money into this park and at the drop of a hat, that can all be gone.
Even if it is, the park that we own and the pieces we own are still there. I'm hoping you're correct in that we own the street that goes over to field 3 and 4. Because if you look at the map, the GIS map of that, it doesn't appear we own it. It appears that that property line is the building there. that sits for
Do we not
fitness.
have an easement there?
I'm not seeing anything in writing, and the property line appears to be that building. So I don't. It's not written anywhere I've seen. I'm not saying it doesn't
Again,
exist.
that leads us in yet another mess.
There's. I would hope what you're saying is right.
Not an owned thing.
I don't know. It doesn't show as a right of way on the map.
Well, that's purpose of having a committee to research this. and
The
find-
GIS map shows that property line at what was Prime Fitness, whatever it was called there for a while.
So
Which
we're
made
in a
me
bad
think
place.
we have no actual, we were allowed to put in a driveway. I
Kind of
don't
like,
disagree with
like
you.
we allowed Piedmont to run against them.
The things we're talking about right here are truthful conversations that we need to have. One piece seems to be behind us and the building is not available to us. So there's an additional problem that stands in front of us. We saw it as the best viable option at that time for those reasons, many reasons.
Many reasons.
You mentioned that the park, I know the mayor even asked about the parking lot and they were not able to sell the parking lot. There's also stipulations. I've heard people say that, well, just go take the parking lot. The reason I put this out there is a commercial property has to have so much square footage of parking. All right, so forget that. It's not available to us to go say, hey, we're gonna take this part of this. I don't know where people think eminent domain would go to this kind of things and how they like this, but that conversation's out there. I won't disagree with some of the statements you've made in that we've got an issue. You know, the way into it is the back of Marlene Street, is going up Marlene and going into the backside there. Now, we can get in, we do have a right to get there in the future if we have that issue. So we're not gonna completely lose it. We have lost a lot of parking opportunity, but there is an option to get there. We've got to be careful on the amount of dollars we're starting to look at. I hope 30 million, you're right, but it'd be interesting if you are. I'm not saying if we can get under 30 million, it'd be very interesting to me.
That's a
Or
low
30
estimate.
million.
That would be a low estimate,
It'd be
closer to
very-
37.
I think 40 is a very,
A very real number.
The number that Spirit used for them was 35 to 40.
I think it's
That's very real. I mean, what we could have done it a lot cheaper had we not had.
And there's a 20% contingency always put on that. So just understand that if we're talking 40,
Yes.
there's a 20% contingency. We're talking 40 million. So
So,
let's understand what we're talking about.
you know, and then I did mention, I've asked several people, is it viable to try and rekindle the conversation with the Holder family?
Cause what I'm looking at is,
That's where
It is the best route, but I mean, there's people out there that says that because the statement's been made that that ship has sailed, that we can't do that. Well, why? Why? I mean, unless you just want to put a hardship on everybody, yeah. I mean, I say, I would, and they're a very civic minded family and understanding that the financial hardship that this will put on people, that I would love to have that conversation with them again and explain to them that the opinions of a few does not represent everyone. And the opinions of a few that are a narrative that has caused dissent was based on fiction. I mean, be realistic. You know, it was all conjecture. There was nothing real about it, but it made for good YouTube watching, didn't it? It made for great Facebook likes.
Those things I won't disagree with you on some pieces of, I don't think they benefit us right now in the conversation we're trying to move towards. If there's a viable option to go down those routes, or if that's a viable option we're looking at, I still think, in my personal opinion, the sheriff brought to us the need for a jail, brought people in and had those pieces saying, hey, here's what we need, and here's this piece. I think he needs to be taking the lead with the movement of where he wants this and stating, here's where I want this to be. If that's gonna be an issue, then I don't know where our next step needs to be as a commission, that we've given some options, some viable options. Looked at some pieces and spent some time on that. We talked many times about the properties across the street. I know they're both for sale. I get that they are both for sale. I get they have a cost. Our taxpayers still paid a lot of money and still owes 1 point something. I'm gonna have to go look at it right now. 1.4 range I'm seeing on the Justice Center that was just built. There's a reason that it's best use to be smart with our people's money, and be very careful with that. So the conversations you're having are very much the right place. It sounds like a committee, the sheriff needs to be on a committee that's moving in that direction, is what it sounds like to me. That'd be my move here.
I would also, when it comes to, I don't want to just sit around and wait and wait and wait and wait, because the longer we sit and wait, the cost of this conversation continually rises.
And it's gonna push the project back another year or two.
It does. We're already 2 years behind.
I know. And so
2 freaking years behind already.
do we just continue to sit and wait and wait and wait and watch the price get to the point to where we're just,
Well, it sounds like no matter where we go in the county, it's gonna cost at least $10 million more than building.
at a minimum?
Than building it at the holders. So there seems to me at least $5 to $6 million of, we're sorry, we have this individual who spoke out of turn and without any evidence and made false accusations
And
on our
the snowball,
commission.
the snowball.
And here's a heartfelt apology, and we still as a county come out cheaper than having to put it on property that we're gonna have to level. And
I just think if we could save all the grief with that park and do that all in one move, it's a no-brainer. And
I hate that a commissioner is costing the county
that much money.
that much money.
Well, it's the taxpayers that's gonna really suffer
No, that's,
for that decision.
and when I say county, that is who I'm referring to. The constituent, the tax-paying people of Trousdale County are going to pay an expense for his behavior. And I personally have a problem because I am a tax-paying resident of Trousdale County.
We'll tell you.
Like I said, I've been gone for 3 months.
I think we need to get with the sheriff and go ahead and get a committee put together.
I would 100% recommend that.
Forward.
And
I'll talk to him about that, but I do think he wants to bring TCI in and have those meetings and then out of that, get a committee together and see how it must go.
Yeah, the presentation was really good.
Guys, you need to listen. When this Spirit has agreed that they would like to come show the entire commission what they've done I had no idea. And what they have done, you guys will all appreciate this. You go like over to Carthage to where Tractor Supply is in that old Walmart. They go into municipalities where they got an old Walmart that's old like that, a fiberglass boat hull factory. And they go in there and they renovate those things and they turn them into a municipal building. They look nicer than the Jimmy Floyd Center. They're gorgeous. And they do it for a huge savings to these communities. That's what their specialty is. The renders, of what this place over here would look like would blow your mind, because this whole nonsense of people cat calling out of windows and stuff, that doesn't exist.
So no guard towers,
No,
no friggin' razor
no
wire,
constant
13
wire.
feet high and all.
They're
Just-
outdoor recreational areas where they have to go out and get their exercise. It's a block wall. And they can't get over it. They can't see it. They can't see any of this stuff. And it looks no different than a new elementary school.
It's a jail, not a prison.
That's right. And
There's differences.
I know, and it,
Finally,
It's correction center.
Yes, there is a great big difference.
finally.
you know,
So, Mr. Taylor, are you proposing that we ask to go back into negotiation, see if it's available?
that needs to go, that needs to be asked. Is we can get some people together and see if we can't get a conversation with the Holder family. And appeal to them. I understand their sour grapes. I totally get it. And they're rightfully so. I would be just as angry. I wouldn't want to walk into a restaurant and be looked at like a criminal.
So are you making a motion
Yes.
to do that?
Well, I mean, we was already, they asking whatever the price and then appraised for, we's gonna have $1 million equity in it.
More than that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So can you restate your motion for the minutes, please?
Yes, both of them. Get a committee of people together and see if we can get an audience with the Holder family to try and discuss this. If they're inclined to do so.
Have a motion. Your second.
what, now, I want to have your input on that, Mayor. What would you think on it?
Yes, please.
I don't know that our chances are really good, but if that's what this committee wants to do, that's, it's fine.
No,
I'll
it-
second it to get it going then.
Is it us finding first, is it the same committee that the sheriff was wanting, or are we gonna go ahead and
Just a
just?
small committee.
Okay,
That was what I was gonna ask before you went to this small committee, mayor comprised of going in and renegotiating, see if there's a table still at play. Is there?
It's worth asking. That's all I'm saying is it's worth asking.
Have a motion and a second. In discussion?
I just want to restate, so Mr. Taylor's making a motion to get a small committee together by the mayor to possibly meet a renegotiation with the Holder family
To
on,
appeal.
to appeal, possibly still purchasing if possible. And Mr. Burton has seconded that.
discussion, what time frame?
Yeah, let's put a time frame on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mayor,
Good this month?
Would love
As soon
that.
as
I fly out on I leave the country on the 15th
This month, by the end of the month, we have that conversation.
and I get back on the 6th of May.
Are you gonna point to the committee, on the members you want to
Hey,
do?
y'all can make suggestions to me.
Yeah, figure it out.
so we have a motion on the table in a second. Right. Do we want to make recommendations who is to be on this committee prior to making a full judgment?
I think we need to vote on it first and then decide.
Okay, I'm just asking. So we have a motion and a second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. How many committee of three?
You don't want to be the first four?
Threes.
Player? Y'all say, who, you wanna go
Yeah,
land?
who would y'all?
You'll be on?
I'm good with yours already.
Do what?
Said I'm good with that committee that said I'm on with you.
Okay.
Is that committee already together?
To meet with the Holders?
No, I don't have a committee.
That's what
Yeah, that's
Who
what,
is,
we're talking.
what committee were you speaking of? Jim?
With the sheriff and the judges in the public defender's office.
The problem with that is when you get 12 together.
No, that's too many for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
you know,
don't do
just
that.
pull from that group.
I think that'd be a great idea because then the whole dictatorship argument gets thrown out the window.
Mm.
I think pulling from the judges and that side of it and approaching,
That
The
large,
Holders with
just
that.
pull three from that larger committee.
I think
Okay.
that'd be a great idea.
We can do that.
We need to amend that. Is that what we wanna do?
Right,
So we don't have to amend it. That's just what we're
I
doing.
don't like to move it.
Okay. You wanna move to do that?
I really like to move it to pull. I don't mind it making that motion.
Okay.
We've asked to put that piece together. Let's pull from
I have a
the committee
motion
that already exists.
to pull three people from the original I guess, was it Law Enforcement Committee? Is that what it was? What was the name of it?
CCT.
I don't remember,
Okay.
3 years ago.
With the White Jewel and the mayor. and-
Joel and-
Can
I'll
we
get
just
that
say from the previous jail committee?
Yes,
That's fine.
that's fine. That's fine.
Sarah, why don't you think the holders, why don't we stand a chance with this thing?
That is slim.
Like I said, I've been gone. I don't know what the hell happened.
It's a slim chance, that it'll do it.
I
But
think we need to put our chairman of our budget and finance maybe in that committee. I don't know if he's on.
I think when it comes to play, we're all right. I mean, I'm being honest with you, I don't mind going or meeting, but when it comes to play, when it comes to play, if it comes-
I'll pull 3 off that original committee and we'll go from there.
So
I have a
we have a
motion to
motion
do
by
it.
Goldie,
I did make a
second.
Yeah.
It was me.
Second by Mr. Thomas. Any further discussion? I'll get that committee together.
No,
Thank you.
you weren't involved in this. This was,
Um,
this was.
all in favor,
everybody.
say aye.
Aye.
13
Motion carries.
years.
Okay,
Thank you very much, everybody.
anything any other business tonight?
I had a couple things that I was scrubbing through some old stuff, and if it has been mentioned or gone over, I'm sorry, I don't remember the end result of it. One is the grant writer.
Mhm.
Are we still involved in looking for a grant writer? Still currently looking for a grant writer?
Yeah.
But none
The
yet.
last piece in the budget finance was there was gonna be a plan to try to look for that for the next budget,
Okay,
to be put in a position.
I met with a grant writer from Williamson County today, who's a part-time grant writer, and she gave me a lot of good advice on how to pursue that, what was needed to make it happen, and she reiterated that there's so much money out there.
The last goal the last piece I remember on the grant writer was that we had given the mayor the option to try to put that into the next budget as a position because it wasn't the same.
Right.
I think that was done in January.
And I tell you what she recommended today is this was her recommendation. Work as a part-time grant writer, but she said you probably need a part-time person to keep up with all the numbers and the administration of it. Because she said that's a major piece of, she says, one thing to write the grants, it's another thing to administer those grants, because especially if you've got a bunch of them going. She did tell me that we already have 2 or 3. She was surprised to see how much we already had going. So we're kind of moving forward with some things, which is good.
okay. Possibility of insurance being on a committee, economic development or prison. Have we made decisions about that?
Insurance committee, we probably need to get back together because we're getting ready to face some price hikes. Let me work on that one. Prison committee, we didn't find that we could get much accomplished with a prison committee, did we?
No, that was silly. That was.
The prison committee is,
Lies.
Go ahead.
so I'm gonna speak because I've always been on the prison committee.
Okay.
It does come out across as being, hey, it's over redundant, it's just basically whatever. But it does help us, because I don't know about y'all, but I get emails constantly from family members wanting to know why they're not getting questions answered from the prison. So then I have to forward them to the no, I don't forward them to the mayor, I'm sorry. Because I think that you were already included in them.
Still good.
But, because when I look at them, but I do call the prison and I do forward them to the warden.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of the social media talk that we get and a lot of the emails that we get, I think when that committee does meet with the warden and some of their staff, it helps for us to be able to answer it in a proper manner. If that makes any sense, just,
I don't mind bringing that committee back, and I'll tell you something else that committee might really help us with is we need some real numbers from the sheriff's office of what that prison's costing us.
Can we combine it with law enforcement?
no.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because we're getting a lot of people from there. We're gonna get a lot more from there too. As far as time being up in prison, and we're holding people for 10 days, 15 days, just for other states to come get them, to come pick them up. I mean, we're feeding them and housing them and.
It is an expense for the county. I will be, because trust me, I used to be the one that had to call and say, hey, Right, I've got one that's gotta be extradited to another state, can you hold them for 24 hours? Well, my negotiation with Ray was, or with Shane was, hey, you hold them for 24 hours, well, that state might not get here for 48 hours or 72 hours.
And Ray talks about this.
So, I mean, it is an expense, so it kind of takes out just from, and I'm not saying that to make another expense or to make another committee or whatever, but it does kind of let us as a community know what is going on out there, and you don't hear about all the social media or what's on the news or this lawsuit or what. You kind of know, besides, now Shane and them probably do hear it, but us as a commission or other people in the community, you might not hear it. Now,
Nobody hears it.
right,
Nobody in the community hears it.
Shane and I both work there, so we both know, we know how it all works, so, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it is, it might not, I have not read the contract in a while, but it used to be something in the contract that they were required to meet with us as a commission, as the county. They are required. I don't remember if it's I'm wanting to say it's maybe quarterly. That they are required to have at least one meeting quarterly with us. And that has not been done in years. So,
Yeah.
And we really do need some real numbers, don't we, Shane?
Yeah, we do. We do.
and it helps with their
We do.
rehabilitation, and it helps us to figure out different ways that, hey, maybe we can help our own law enforcement to rehabilitate those that are going back out into society. I mean, there's all different ways to look at it.
I mean, it takes two people to go pick up one inmate over
Mhm.
there. And sometimes we'll be sitting there for 5 or 6 hours outside the
Exactly.
gate. So that's the law enforcement pay, and then a correctional officer pay. It's just, I mean, it adds up. Heck, we were doing one a week when I was still there.
Right. I mean, it is. I mean,
Yeah,
you've
the
got,
only problem I had with that committee was the warden. Every once in a while it seemed like he was just blowing smoke. Everything was peachy keen. We have plenty of help. We've got this, we've got that, no issues, no nothing. When I'm listening to it on the radio, I mean, I can almost tell I'm listening to, quit lying.
it's a totally different.
You are lying to
Right.
us. Don't lie. Tell us the truth, because I hear it. So it's just, that's. the
Now,
only problem I have with that
if
committee.
you were to enforce this committee again, I will full-fledged go ahead and say that I would like to be on that, because I think Shane would need to be on that,
It's,
just being in there, because we know, and there's gonna be questions that maybe not. And I don't mean it to sound, this is gonna come out totally negative and totally wrong, but I don't mean this, but there's gonna be questions that we are gonna know to ask and to question.
That the average citizen. would
That
know
every citizen would like to know or like clarification on.
yeah, and the clarification has got to be the truth, because I tell you what, if I'm on this committee and I get those people in there to say everything's peachy keen, I'm gonna call them a liar to their face,
Well, and I used
because
to
I've heard
be,
it all. I've
I
heard it
used
all
to
from
be
that
the one
stupid
that-
place.
I actually figured the report, that was sent, that was for every meeting. So I knew how many numbers were in education, how many were
Exactly. Yeah.
going out on parole, how many were housed there, what the custodies were, how many we had in segregation. There's a lot of little nitpicky things that Shane's gonna know what they are, I'm gonna know what they are. And I'm not saying that anybody else can't figure them out or might not know them. It's not hard to, but there would be questions, there's questions that I would like to know right now myself, how things are.
Yeah.
What's your staffing, what's your medical staffing, how is that, because it affects our staffing for EMS, our staffing for law enforcement, just different things.
You bring up 3 good points. One would be insurance committee, which I'll get to work on that.
Well,
And
I like to, I've been chairman of the insurance committee several
Yeah,
years,
you
not here, not this past, and I don't want to be chairman again of it, but
don't?
we got,
Well, you did a good
the
job.
last time we got a broker in, it was supposed to get with employees and help.
Right,
And every time we try to do something like that, it falls back to the employee's always gonna stick with the state plan, cause you know, I mean, and it always, it's no movement on it. I mean, and we might have met once a year on it. And it always failed to that. We've got somebody in there now that's supposed to be working. That's when we hired these brokers to help. But it always comes back when, they wanna stay with the state plan and it's just hard to move. If you move out of state plan, you gotta stay out 2 years or something before you can go back in or something of that nature.
well, and that's not to tie back to the prison, but that was one thing that we had brought up in discussion. I don't know if Landon, you or Bubba remember this, and yeah. But trying to make insurance better, could we work out some kind of deal with Core Civic, because they have phenomenal insurance out there.
But I don't know how you can go, I don't know how you can do
I,
that.
I don't know, but I'm just saying,
The hardest brokers right now.
could there be some kind of mesh that, hey, instead of us increasing our cost to what they pay us for being there, could we kind of make it relevant to help out and work with the same insurance company and get a bigger discount? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, before we go talking about insurance too much, I think the big move that we need to make, how many of our employees are currently taking insurance? I thought for a long time it was a lot. But when we were in insurance committee meetings, and there were some very interested individuals that were coming, they've been with our county a long time, they've been working for our county a long time, and they were taking the county insurance at that time. From what we found out the last couple of times we looked into it, a much, and you can look at this in the budget, you can see where the numbers are, where the amount of money that's budgeted for insurance gets turned back in, doesn't get used. If you really want to go track those numbers, why does it not get used? No one took that employee didn't take the insurance. I'm not saying no one, but that employee didn't take the insurance. One of the problems we have in this county is our insurance, with insurance premiums, is the amount of individuals that are on the insurance and taking the insurance. At one time put us at a lot, and they're more elderly, there's more cost, there's more pieces, so there weren't a lot of our young workers that are, and there weren't a lot of workers taking the insurance. We might, before we even talk about an insurance committee, need to see how many are taking, because it does turn right back around to the same thing. We don't have a lot of people taking our insurance at this time. I understand the cost, but the reason the cost is where the cost is at is because of the individuals that are on the insurance, the premiums. That's the biggest thing about it. It's not, so insurance, if you think about how this thing works. For example, we talked about, looking at your age gap. So insurance is based on who's taking your insurance. So the cost that they're going to present to you is based on who's taking it. You mentioned Core Civic may have a very phenomenal insurance. I don't know their setup, but I do know that the average worker I see going there is quite young. If they're taking that insurance, there's probably a reason that insurance is kind of sold in that case, if you think about it, based on the expectations.
It might be on that scale.
So there's a different scale that we're talking about there. So at this point, the number of employees that are taking our insurance is another reason that our insurance stays in certain areas, if you hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think I feel like their employees are probably forced to look elsewhere at their spouse's insurance to cover for the family because it's ridiculous. So it's probably,
Actually, someone
it's
someone who we considered hiring not too long ago looked at our insurance compared to other counties and said, our plan is a really good plan. It's the difference in how much the county contribution was. Let me just take those committees under advisement, and I promise you I'll look into that. These three committees, as far as industrial development is concerned, that's kind of tied to IDB, and that's one reason we don't have separate ones, but I'll look at them. Anything else, any other business, y'all?
Motion to adjourn.
I will accept your motion. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your,
What can you hear?
I'm sorry.
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any public comment?
I'll go comment. In my opinion, trying to reopen the Holder deal is a huge mistake. We had a vote in January to kill that deal entirely. It was a 12-7 vote. Now that vote failed. if there would probably be enough votes on the full commission to push that through. It would be close. Do you want to start that in all the aggravation, all the things that are gonna go out on social media and everything?
Screw social.
Well,
Yeah.
Chris,
and also,
here's the form.
everybody I talked to, well, some of us said, not only said no, and like they said, hell no, not that anywhere else, not out there. I don't know what the future holds. Conceivably, I'd like to get reelected in a couple of years. Pissing off 95% of the public, which is exactly what you will do if we start that again, doesn't seem like a good idea to me. And Lonnie hinted at this, and I said this to Lonnie, and I'll say it here. It was said that that ship has sailed, that is dead. We need to look elsewhere. I'm not in the habit of going back on my word, and that's exactly what it's going to look like to the public. Is if we start that process again, and we just need to bear that in mind.
Well, I like to say, my understanding as a county commissioner, I was elected to be as good a steward with county funds and the tax dollars that come to this county. And if that property can save this county $10, $20 million, and that's less tax dollars that my constituents have to pay, that's my responsibility to do whatever I can to help push that situation. So I don't care who owns the property. I don't care what bad feelings some people might have because they weren't included in all the discussions or were given false information. When it comes down to it, it's our responsibility to be good stewards of that money and to spend as little of it as needed for the function of this county. And if it means I don't get reelected because I
So
did
be it.
my job, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, so be it.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye.